Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today, I have a very thought-provoking, fascinating, and obscure upload to share with you. Before we get into it, though, a couple links I'd like to share. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, and my merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. The links to Patreon and PayPal are in the description below. My merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters Volume 1, 2, and 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeffrey Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, the links to which are also in the description as well. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's get on with today's upload. Shall we? So yesterday, I did the Cadiz Cove Victor and his team hunt. I very much so enjoyed sharing that. I actually have been sitting on it and have not even read it myself. Periodically, I will receive emails from subscribers wanting to share experiences, wanting to thank me. And then I get some that are more or less trying to say what I'm saying is wrong out of moral standards. And the hunt that Victor and his team did were from feral people. Just because the word people is attached to it does not mean they are a human. I don't believe they are. Victor didn't share that with us because he is not a scientist. He is a hunter. And like he said, they are in captivity and being examined daily, probably. But the closest thing a Neanderthal, or a feral person to me is a Neanderthal. But there's something else that I stumbled across about nine months ago, somewhere around there, that possibly opened the whole spectrum of dogmen, werewolf, Sasquatch, feral human, and kind of made them an easier subject to view. I don't believe that I don't believe they are some sort of, demon or whatever. I believe in demons. I believe that there's possibly some demons presenting themselves as these creatures. As a matter of fact, what I saw back in '94 may have been a demon because it did not resemble any of the dogmen. I've heard like maybe 3 or 4 close resemblances, but it wasn't that Van Helsing-esque dogman. So maybe that was a demon. I'm not sure. I'm not sure of anything, to be honest, because I'm not an expert. I've got a sore throat, so I'm drinking tea with honey. I apologize. What I want to share with you, I've shared this once before, but I've had many new subscribers since. And I'm starting to see that subscribers aren't going back and looking at older videos. So I want to share this scientific theory with you guys. I love this theory. Do I live by it? No. Do I expand my own theories off of it? Yes, I do. So here it is. Every human culture has believed in the existence of other beings, monstrous humanoids, sapient but inhuman. They have gone by different names: boogeyman, bugbear, cyclops, giant, Jotun, ogre, Ane, troll, yeti, and more. But they are always feared, lurkers in the shadows, threats to the clan, tribe, and hearth. Dungeons and Dragons didn't create these monsters, and despite ongoing controversies, they don't represent anything modern. Humanity's legendary heroes have been fighting these monsters since time immemorial. The real question is why? Why does every civilization have similar myths? Why does every culture have legends of monstrous humanoids? And why are they always depicted as fearsome and dangerous? Because the legends are real. The orcs were real. That is at least the argument offered by Danny Van Drimeny in his book Them and Us: How Neanderthal Predation Created Modern Humans. Van Drimeny is a heterodox thinker, and his argument is well outside of the mainstream view. So, before we delve into Van Dremeny's book, let's discuss what that mainstream view is. Archaeologists and geneticists agree that humanity co-evolved and interbred with similar species. We nowadays have abundant, essentially irrefutable archaeological and genetic evidence for the existence of multiple human-like species within the Paleolithic and Neolithic era. These include Neanderthal, Denisovan, and Hobbit. Several recently discovered and uncategorized species, such as Nasher Homo in Israel. New human-like species are being discovered all the time. In fact, as I am sharing this, Chinese archaeologists discovered another one. Yet, none of these archaic humans or humanoids survive today. Not a single one. All have gone extinct, vanishing save for traces of artifacts and bones in our wilderness and fragments of DNA in our genome. What happened to them? Here disagreements begin. The possible cause of extinction identified by scientists include extinction from parasites and pathogens, extinction from interbreeding into humanity, extinction from inability to adapt to climate change, extinction from natural catastrophe, and extinction by war with humans. The latter view, it suggests that the human race brutally extinguished the other sapient primates it faced, was first proposed by French paleontologist Marceline Buell way back in 1912. It was then promptly ignored for many decades. As explained in the Archaeology of Warfare and Mass Violence in Ancient Europe, archaeologists are increasingly aware that they have underestimated the social impact of collective violence. Sites like Riedmont, Kessel, Monte Bernorio, Calcrease confront us with point way with the cruelties of war and mass violence in late prehistoric and early historic times. There is a growing critique that archaeology has marginalized violence and presented too placid a view of the past. Actually, it wasn't just archaeology that was biased. Academics of all sorts hate violence, and for decades they systematically marginalized it from their explanations of events. Only within the last 20 years has mainstream academics and scientists accepted the obliquity of violence in men and its closest kin. Anthropologists systematically understand the violence of indigenous people, perpetuating the myth of the noble savage. Now they have admitted the level of violence in prehistoric times and non-state societies was much higher than today. Biologists believe that chimpanzees were only violent because of interactions with humans. Now, they have confirmed that violence is innate with two chimpanzees who routinely engage in war and murder. Historians argued that Indo-European language, culture, and bloodlines spread through migration and trade. Now, they've acknowledged it was through large-scale violent conquest. With these developments in mind, mainstream academics have finally began to accept that human beings drove the Neanderthals to extinction through war. Nicholas R. Longrich, a senior lecturer in evolutionary biology and paleontology at the University of Bath, presents an excellent summary of the current consensus. To war as human and Neanderthals were very like us. We are remarkably similar in our skull and skeletal anatomy and share 99.7% of our DNA. Behaviorally, Neanderthals were astonishingly like us. The archaeological record confirms Neanderthals' lives were anything but peaceful. The best evidence that Neanderthals not only fought but excelled at war is that they met us and were not immediately overrun. Instead, for around 100,000 years, Neanderthals resisted modern human expansion. For thousands of years, we must have tested their fighters, and for thousands of years, we kept losing. Finally, the stalemate broke and the tide shifted, and we don't know why. It's possible the invention of superior ranged weapons, bows, spear throwers, throwing clubs, let lightly built Homo sapiens harass the stocky Neanderthals from a distance using hit-and-run tactics, or perhaps better hunting and gathering techniques, let sapiens feed bigger tribes, creating numerical superiority in battle. Ultimately, we won, but this wasn't because they were less inclined to fight. In the end, we likely just became better at war than they were. The mainstream view, then, is that Neanderthals were behaviorally and physically much like humans, made war much like humans, and were eventually defeated by superior technology in numbers, much as Europeans defeated indigenous peoples throughout history by superior technology in numbers. In other words, we killed off Fred Flintstone. The Heterodox View. Let us now consider Danny Van Drimeny's view. Van Drimeny agrees with the mainstream that Neanderthals were driven to eventual extinction by war with Homo sapiens. Where he parts way with the mainstream is his assessment of what Neanderthals were like. And my friends, this is where it gets very interesting. Please keep an open mind, and you may see where my theory and this kind of meets. Neanderthals were apex predators. Analysis of isotopes of bone has shown that Neanderthal diet was 97% meat. They are estimated to have eaten 4.1 pounds of fresh meat per day. Ample evidence exists to show they used stone-tipped wooden spears to hunt. From the bones littered their caves, we know Neanderthals hunted woolly mammoth, giant cave bear, woolly rhinos, bison, wolves, and even cave lions, the most dangerous and lethal animals on Earth. Neanderthals were cannibals. A number of Neanderthal sites reveal bones that have been cut and cracked open to extract marrow. While this hypothesis was initially rejected, a recent find at El Sidran in Spain revealed numerous Neanderthal skeletons with the unmistakable marks of butchery by cannibals wielding hand axes, knives, and scrapers. Neanderthals had more robust bones and heavier musculature than humans. They weighed 25% more. They were so heavily muscled that their skeletons had to develop extra thick bones. One of the most characteristic features of the Neanderthal is the exaggerated massiveness of their trunk and limb bones. All of this preserved bone suggests a strength seldom obtained by modern human. Quoting paleoanthropologist Eric Trinkus, a healthy Neanderthal male could lift an average NFL linebacker over his head and throw him through the goalposts. Neanderthals also evolved extremely thick skulls, post-cranial hyper-robustity, that protected them in close-quarter confrontation with prey. They all had kyphosis with hunched backs that gave them a distinct profile and gait. Neanderthals' teeth were twice as large as humans. According to a 2008 anthropologist's research, their mouths could open much wider than human mouth, enabling them to take extremely large bites. Judging by the size of their jaw, they had tremendous bite force. Neanderthals evolved in the Ice Age Europe and had specific adaptations to that climate. They had short limbs, large noses, compact torsos. Most importantly, they were covered with thick fur. Since no Neanderthal cadaver survives, this point cannot be proven. But Van Drimeny points out that every primate except Homo sapien is covered with fur, and that every cold-adapted mammal during the Ice Age had thick fur, including mammals that were hairless in Africa, such as the elephant and the rhinoceros. There is no reason to believe Neanderthals were hairless, except for our desire for them to look like us. The only way Neanderthals could have survived in the Ice Age without fur was if they made thick protective clothes. Archaeologist Mark White points out, Neanderthal clothing would have needed to be more than ragged loincloth of popular depiction. Some form of tailoring would have been required, but Neanderthal sites have yielded no evidence of needlecraft technology. They were not making clothes because they had fur. Neanderthal skulls had extremely large eye sockets, suggesting very large eyes. That in turn suggests that Neanderthals were nocturnal. However, the large eyes pose a problem in the Ice Age Europe. Would have presented Neanderthals with blinding sunlight reflecting off the snow. Van Drimeny suggests the Neanderthals had vertically aligned slit pupils, which enabled them to use the full diameter of the lens in low light, while shutting out bright light by day. Nocturnal primates, such as the rhesus monkey and owl monkey, all have large eyes with vertically aligned slit pupils. Van Drimeny suggests Neanderthals also had a tapetum lucidum, like a cat, that made their eyes shine in the dark, and had a dark sclerella like all other primates. Neanderthals had distinct facial prognathism that had featured large, broad noses. Van Drimeny argues that this suggests the Neanderthal snout with a dog-like nose designed for scent hunting. This is useful during nocturnal raids. Neanderthals did not speak human language. He quotes a September 2008 talk presented to the American Association of Physical Anthropologists. Their large nasal cavity would have decreased the intelligibility of a vowel-like sound, and the combination of a long face, short neck, unequally proportioned vocal tract, large nose made it highly unlikely that Neanderthals would have been unable to produce quantal speech. Neanderthals' tongues were also not shaped to speak clearly. Overall, the evidence suggests the creature that spoke with a deep timbre, with lots of guttural sounds. This next paragraph is very, very important. The Neanderthal that Van Drimeny describes is thus a terrifying creature, a hunched, cannibalistic predator with large, shining eyes, and an animalistic snout covered by thick fur and massive muscles, built for close combat, hunting by night, with a brutish and guttural voice, and a huge mouth with huge teeth and powerful jaws. It did not look like Fred Flintstone. That, my friend, is an orc, or a bugbear, or an ogre, or a dogman. Whatever it is, it's been appearing in our myths and legends for thousands of years. It's the great enemy. Now, we will learn why we fear the night. According to them and us, Neanderthal and human were predator and prey, and we were the prey. The Neanderthals came upon helpless humans by night, slew our men, carried off, and had their way with our women. Honestly, how do you think Neanderthal DNA got into our genome? And they kept doing it generation after generation. Not only were they stronger, faster, and tougher than Homo sapiens, the Neanderthals were just as smart and as well armed. Under assault by these flesh-eating monsters, the human race almost went extinct. Only by becoming an apex predator ourselves did we survive. We became the greatest killers the world has ever known, because if we hadn't, we would have died out. Is Van Dremeni's theory correct? He cites a number of anomalies in the genetic makeup and fossil record of human beings as evidence. Let's start with that genetic makeup. The most remarkable thing about the human genome is that it is not very diverse, according to geneticists. Pascal Gadju, humans have by far the least amount of genetic variation of any primate species. We actually found that one single group of 55 chimps in West Africa have twice the genetic variability of all humans. He reports another scientist, Bernard Wood, said, the amount of genetic variation that has accumulated in humans is just nowhere compatible with the age of our species. To explain it, we must have come within a cigarette paper thickness of becoming extinct. He says Dr. David Reich of the Harvard Medical School calculated that the population of humans dropped to as few as 50 individuals. Something terrible happened to the human race. When did this population bottleneck occur? The number of teams have analyzed mutation rates to find out. The mutation rate in our Y chromosome suggests the bottleneck occurred 37 to 49,000 years ago. The mutation rate of a single nucleotide paleomorphous suggests 48,000 years. Dr. Reich's study claims 27 to 53,000 years. Now, let's turn to the fossils, specifically the collection known as the Qafsef skull fossil, found in present-day Israel. These fossils represent the earliest known population of Homo sapiens. The fossils first appeared in the Levant region around 125,000 years ago. After tens of thousands of years occupying the Levant, the Qafsef skull began to disappear from the fossil record around 80,000 years ago. For the next 30,000 years, that is, from around 80,000 to 50,000 years ago. The fossils in the Levantine region are mostly Neanderthal. After that, the Neanderthal fossils began to disappear from the Levant, and Homo sapien fossils began to reappear. The apparent timeline of the Neanderthal invasion matches the apparent timeline in our genetic bottleneck. Neanderthals invaded the Levant around 80,000 years ago and proceeded to drive the human race to the brink of doom. The Neanderthal is gone now, but we endure. While we live, he does as well, for we still carry fragments of his DNA, and perhaps we carry the memory of our species' great foe in our myths, our legends, or our Jungian collective unconsciousness, as Van Dremeni writes. If early Greek, Roman, Norse, and Chinese mythologies are anything to go by, the legends spun by early humans center around a heroic human, almost always a man, who is pitted against an ugly, evil, cruel monster with superhuman strength. This universal mythic monster is usually male, invariably wild, hairy, dangerous, and uncouth. Often it is half man, half animal, and tends to live in dank forests or dark caves, or emerged from the underworld under the cover of darkness. The monster is frequently a sex fiend who kidnaps and ravishes innocent maidens and fair princes, whom he drags to his shadowy lair. It commonly feeds on human flesh, devours children, and stalks by the night. So, I love this theory. I truly have this book. I've read it 3 different times. And I am in my studio or researching at least 14 hours a day, no less than 12. And I had time to read this book 3 different times. The book is, I honestly encourage anyone to get the book, Them and Us. It's an amazing read. And Van Drimany's theories, I don't believe them all, but I'm not supposed to, right? Because that's what theory is. We take what fits our theory, and we can discard the rest. I don't say discard, but keep the rest kind of like on hold in case our theories change or something comes up and we need to add something to or take away. But what in the description that Van Drimany suggests the Neanderthal resembles, to me, is a resemblance of Bigfoot, Dogman, werewolf, and feral human. And I hate that we call them feral humans, because I do not believe they are human. They fit the description of a Neanderthal. And yes, the Neanderthal may have been, we may have Neanderthal genes or DNA in our genome, but these things are completely different than a human. I had a guy yesterday that said he unsubscribed because Victor went and hunted feral humans or feral people. Why? I said. These things are monsters, just like Bigfoot, Dogman, and werewolf. If a creature is going to attack you, then you attack back to protect your life. They weren't going there to kill them all. They were actually trying to take them into custody and bring them to the underground facilities for testing and research. They were attacked. Tactfully, actually. They were brought back. The troops, Victor and his troops, were brought back to these things' caves. We're talking about an experienced team fighting a 100,000-year throwback that's fighting with a rock, and you've got firearms. But this is the one thing that just, when I read the book, I was like, wow, this is amazing. The Neanderthal that Van Drimany describes is thus a terrifying creature, a hunched, cannibalistic predator with large shining eyes, an animalistic snout, covered in thick fur and massive muscles, built for close combat, hunting by night with a brutish and guttural voice, and a huge mouth with huge teeth and powerful jaws. These were not Fred Flintstone. That, my friends, is an orc, a bugbear, an ogre. Whatever it is, it's been appearing in our myths and legends for thousands of years. There's a reason for that, because they exist and people don't want to still accept they do. This is, when I first read this, I was blown away. I literally jumped on Kindle. I have a Paperwhite, and I have that because there are so many good books out there that I love having physical books, but there are so many books that I want to read that if I can save $20 on a $30 book, you bet your butt I'm going to do it. And when I have that $30, I'm going to buy that book. But at least I have it until I have the physical copy on my Paperwhite. So if you guys don't want to buy the copy and it's too much, I think it's like $30 something for a physical copy, with the price of gas and everything. Buy it on Kindle. Download it to your phone. Download it to a tablet. It's amazing. It really is. Like, what else does this fits the perfect description of a Dogman? I mean, Neanderthals evolved in the Ice Age Europe and had specific adaptations for the climate. They had short limbs, large noses, and compact torsos. More importantly, they were covered with thick fur. And then he goes and proves why. And then that one simple thing. There is no reason to believe Neanderthals were hairless except for our desire for them to look like us. Why? Because if they look like us, they are less harmful to us. So we've got the fur explanation. You've got the nocturnal night vision. You've got the glowing of the eyes. You've got the dog-like snout. And you've got the guttural sounds that are heard when people encounter any of these four. It's amazing. Anyway, I love this. I hope you guys liked it. If you didn't, I'm sorry. If you disagree with it, that's awesome too. Why? Because it's theory. Theory is take away what you like and put it with what you have and build a better theory or a bigger theory or whatever you want. Just be open-minded. That's how research is. You need to be open-minded and really look at everything. And then and only then will we be able to solve this puzzle. All right, guys. With that, please practice kindness. May the Great Spirit watch over us all. And may He guide us down that path that we call life. Until later on tonight, my friends. Till later on tonight.